yeah, when we meet in 10 years' time, we want to shake hands and have our rings clink. Yeah, that always stood out in my mind because it's a symbolism of the people that the greats of the game have.
When Wayne rolled in the door, this club didn't have a lot of belief.
There was a lot of people that had gone out of their way to make sure that we knew that we were chokers.
We had a little bit of a thing there about the true believers.
To all the true believers!
If one thing changed that year, it mightn't have been our year.
Put 2 down for Nightingale!
It just had that air about it where what we were doing, it wasn't going to be stopped.
The Dragons win the grand final!
There was just so much relief after waiting 31 years.
We've been knocked down and got back up again each time, and now we're here! To all the true believers, let's celebrate it!
Hi, I'm Jason Nightingale, and you are listening to the True Believers podcast. Today I'm sitting down with Premiership winning 5'8", Jamie Soward. Jimmy Chow, take us back. I suppose my earliest memories were when you came to the club after a few rounds at the Roosters, obviously looking for an opportunity. What were your thoughts on why the Dragons? I know we were having sort of a rebuilding year that year off the back of a couple of 05-06 where they were really solid. So was yours around opportunity? Did you have a passion for our club and what is it?
Yeah, it's Brownie. I met Brownie just as an opportunity, really. I wasn't playing at the Roosters, and as you said, the 05-06 Dragons were probably a couple of the best teams they've ever had. So got an opportunity to come across halfway through the year. I think I was down in Wagga, got the word I was going to become the Dragons, so I had to get back and train. I think I only trained once, and we played Brisbane on a Friday night at Cogra. So.
How did that Brisbane game go? Because I pretty specific in my memories, and I can imagine one of the highlights, especially the early part of your career.
Yeah, I think Brisbane won by 70 points the week before against Newcastle, so it was always going to be daunting. But playing at Cogra first time, I think we had a sort of rag and tag team. We had a lot of guys that were trying to still cut their teeth in first grade, and we ended up beating them 11-4.
Soward, he'll get the shot. Back it comes. There's the snap, and it is as sweet as it gets. The former Rooster is crowned a Dragon tonight.
The earliest memories from coming to the Dragons was there was a lot of guys there. You'd been part of the successful teams in the juniors. They'd had guys playing 05-06 that were probably not certainly getting past it, but probably missed their opportunity to win that title. And then 07 was a bit of a rebuilding year, and 08 we needed to kick into gear, and we ended up making the finals. But first impression, it was a very talented club, and probably the biggest club I felt in Australia in terms of most recognisable brands.
And to Wayne, the journey and the optimism, I remember it, feeling it as a player myself, and being, it was 21 at the time, and he came in. What did that do for your own confidence and I suppose your plans for the future? Yeah,
Wayne called me halfway through 08 and said that he wanted me to be my 5'8", and you get that sort of backing from the greatest coach of all time. That certainly, like I said, it eased the thought process, and signed a 2-year deal. And I think when Wayne came to the club, his message was really clear, and that's what his players love about him, the fact that he's so clear and there's no mincing of words, and you don't go home thinking one thing when you should have done another thing. So it's all laid out on the table. And I still remember the conversation we had before our first trial. It was about family and stuff like that. He was more worried about how I was off field, and he was always a big believer of get your life off field right, and you're going to be able to play well. So he had a lot of young guys there that either hadn't fulfilled their potential or had a chance to fulfil their potential, and then he had some old guys, some roughheads that he had to get into the squad to make that mix. But if you think back to that pre-season, it was the hardest one I'd ever done, and that brought us closer together than any other team I'd been a part of, that 09.
That's where I want to take you, is something, certainly one of the worst weeks of my life, especially the worst few days of my life. And judging by the looks on your face for a few of those days, probably not the best few days of your life, that torture camp. When he took us down to Nowra in the middle of nowhere, we could have been in Uzbekistan for all we knew. What were your memories of that? And like you saw, the look on your face summed it up a lot, and a lot of people in that squad. What were your memories of that, and have those emotional scars healed?
Well, it was like the toughest thing I'd ever done. I'd never been on a pre-season camp like that, and I remember getting the sheet of what we had to get, and I think 99% of us thought it was going to be a bit of fun, you know, go out and get on the piss and do what we want. But I remember sitting on the bus and I bought some sort of paint to put under our eyes, and we're up the back sort of laughing and giggling, the early start and that. And once we got down there and the 4 SAS guys got hold of us, it quickly changed. But as hard as it was, I don't think the Dragons of that 3 years under Wayne has the success, because if you look at our team, we weren't the most talented team in the competition. We didn't even have the best players in the competition. But as a team, we were relentless in what we did for those 3 years off the back of that camp. And, camps like that teach you a lot about yourself and teach you a lot about guys you can rely on. And the last moment of Wayne, helping carry the stretchers with weights and everything on it was that he was in for the long haul. And
was Ranieri, was he?
Yeah, we carried Benny Hornby and Alex Ranieri on the stretchers. But like when that stuff to me was stuff that sticks out, and
it is.
Whatever happens after that was going to happen off the back of that.
Yeah, so I still have some emotional scars. I remember trying to explain it to Bianca when I got home, and it was just, she's like,
you can't,
oh, yeah, cool.
You can't.
And I think I still had a bit of shell shock sort of thing, not sleeping afterwards. I still remember Dan Hunt and Jared Safi were in my group. Benny Hornby was as well with his one shoulder. So the reason why Benny Hornby got carried is because he had a shoulder recco.
Yes.
He was still carrying, and Benny Hornby is incredibly weak physically, but mentally he is so tough.
Yeah.
So he was carrying around with one shoulder. I had him, Jared Safi, and Dan Hart were both beasts and behemoths. But I still remember one of the first or the second night, lying in our little tents, sitting there. Saf puts on his hand on my knee and goes, Annabelle, where are we? What are we doing here? And I go, mate, we're on a bloody camp. It's 2 a.m. I'm trying to sleep in our 1 hour sleep.
Yeah.
And I just remember that was the sort of effect it was having. And he and Dan had been on the wines the night before. Probably didn't think probably wasn't the smartest idea. They thought it was one of those Jindabyne ones we had the year before, where it was a lot of fun. We played a bit of basketball, and I think that was a really that was Wayne putting his stamp on what it takes to.
And we have so many guys like that. I mean, the 2010 team gets all the rewards, but like Jared Safi never gets spoken enough about in my eyes. Like what he did for that team, how tough he was. Unfortunately, Dan Hunt was injured that year, but those guys are guys that help set the foundations there. So you were lucky in your team. We had Dean Young, and we had a lot of the brothers and. The swimming races, the brothers, we didn't go well. So
the drowning races.
Poor old Dino was stuck with us. And, But like I said, it found out a lot about people, and it ended up setting the foundations. Yeah,
good point. Well, take you through. I'm sure you've run through a couple of times the back end of that year for us. Obviously, we had that season we built through, and everything was travelling nice. What was your take? I was saying before, Rick, that I felt like how well we played round 26 against Parramatta might have hurt us, might have awoken them. What was your take on the back end of that year and putting ourselves in the position to raise the JJ Gilton shield?
Look, I went to sleep about a month before thinking I'm about to live a childhood dream here. Like, we're going to win quite comfortably. I felt like we were the best team, even though there's some good other teams out there. I just didn't feel like, we'd been up the top of the ladder all year, and we'd been in a couple of tight games, but I just felt like we had the team to be able to get it done. And that last game against Parramatta, sort of a bit of a rope-a-dope, and I think we're one of only about 2 or 3 teams to lose that 1v8 matchup, which still hurts. But I just remember feeling like our time was going to come. We just weren't ready. We just were. We'd worked hard. We'd set everything up, and that. Winning the minor premiership is a great honour, but you don't talk about minor premierships when you retire. You talk about championships.
Especially in the EPL.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, I look back, and BMOS had to get 3 tries to get the try scoring title that year, and he did on that Friday night. And the house was rocking, as it was most Friday nights at Cogger when we were playing. And then next week they just stunned us. We tried to play the same, and they'd just done their video, and I threw an intercept to Eric Growth, and Hainsey was on a magnificent stretch. So, look, they just adjusted better than us, and I think that probably showed that we were ready, but we probably weren't finally ready to take that next step.
Yeah, I think that's a good way. And then we got little bit ripped off by the old system. The old system.
I don't
same
know how
time-
you finish first and have to travel to Brisbane,
Oh.
one of the toughest road trips in the NRL. But that Brisbane game, I think we were so disappointed and embarrassed from the week before.
Yeah, we never
that
recovered.
we just never recovered. And I remember sitting having a beer after Brisbane and looking around at each other, and Wayne spoke about not changing anything, and Dean Young's famous line, "We're not going to change anything. We just got to do it better at the right time of the year." Sitting around having a beer, it was like, we're going to be back next year. This isn't our last sort of ride. We're going to be back next year. But it was. I think it was more embarrassment than anything else. We're sick of the chokers tags, and we'd probably just eaten into that.
That is the end of the semi-final, won by Brisbane.
2010, the preseason was just totally different. Like, it was hard. It was just as hard. We didn't have to do that camp again, because once you do it, it's already set in your brain, right? So, but it was like business-like. Like, there was no warming into it. There was no, like, 2 weeks. And, we came back on a mission.
Yeah, you weren't dragging your ass in through those stupid 1.2s you have to do. And
everyone
running
just
your first one
just
at
came
6
back
minutes.
super fit,
Yeah.
super ready to go, super refreshed. And I think, like, if you look at turning points, for a young guy like myself and you at the time, 29 ended up being the best thing that happened for us, because things don't come easy. I remember talking to Darius after we won, and he just said, like, that was his first year he wins a premiership.
Yeah,
He just
in 06,
didn't appreciate it as much, and I'm sure BMOS would say the same now for the Roosters. His second title probably means more than the first, because of how hard it is to get there. But I just remember Darius saying, like, when you're young, you don't sort of appreciate it as much.
100%. So we're into that 2010, and the start, like you said, we were much more. It did feel like business. It felt like business, but business that you're enjoying.
Yeah.
And we're rolling into it. And I want to bring you to I remember these events like they were yesterday is the ANZAC Day games, and especially that year, that 2010 year for you, little personal milestone, becoming the top point scorer for our club in that ANZAC Day game. What did that mean to you in that game to get an individual milestone?
Yeah, ANZAC Day is the best day of the year for a Dragons or Roosters player and or fan, because you get the whole build-up. The game was your own. And I know Melbourne and the Warriors have done it exceptionally well the last couple of years as well, but it just means more to it. Like, you just see everyone walking to the game. You're the only game on that day. I think I only lost one while I was at the Dragons, but I just really enjoyed the build-up to it. I enjoyed hearing the stories of people come in and talk to us before the game, and I felt like it was a finals experience. I sort of took it as preparation for later on in the year.
And obviously, as fate would have it, they would be the team we played at the end of the year. But do you think we learnt much out of those occasions, like the two games we had against them, both of which were wins for us? What do you remember about them as a club that year?
A lot of pressure on them because Brian Smith was there, Todd Carney was there, Mitchell Pearce. Like, these were the young guys coming through to supposedly take over. They had Braith, so they had experience. But I don't think, with all due respect to the Roosters that year, we were the best team in the competition. I think we learnt more out of losses round 9, sorry. The teams that spanked us and didn't let us get to our what we wanted to do with our points and put some points on. I mean, you think Melbourne, that was a tough lesson down at Etihad, first time playing inside a closed stadium.
Wasn't that a weird field?
It's just a weird field.
Field.
Slater and everyone was cooking, and then all of a sudden, Canberra, we could never beat them. But Manly, they still had the crux of a good team, and then we sort of struggled a little bit towards the back end there. But the Roosters that year were a team that were on the rise, and Brian Smith was fantastic in getting them from last to sixth. I think they ended up finishing, but I felt we learnt more about ourselves from the year before and those other teams that we played.
Yeah, well, to take back to that weird game we had and not long after that, obviously the Melbourne salary cap, and I think all of us resoundingly, when asked about that, it didn't really come onto our radar. I suppose looking back, it still doesn't come onto our radar. What do you think helped us, I suppose, dust that off, the fact that
like when someone speaks about the Melbourne Storm salary cap scandal, it doesn't really come into our thing. I think.
No, well, we were the best team anyway.
Yeah.
I think if we play them in a grand final, they had a great team, but 17-4 the year before we play them, Cogra, we beat them, and we lose by a point our first game under Wayne in Golden Point. So our styles were matched up very nicely. I thought we were the best team anyway, so I don't really give a shit when people say that about the Melbourne Storm, because I felt we were the best team, and we still had to beat everyone. So
I agree, and I think that's the thing that it didn't affect us because it wasn't really on our radar. And I think that's probably a Wayne thing, that we were so focused on ourselves and not really what anyone else is doing. And I think that's probably, when you talk about, even when I mentioned to you about the Roosters there, sort of a thing, but it's not really a thing. And I think that's the lesson you learn from Wayne, is that about yourself. So,
well, the great teams, Jace, they don't worry about anyone else. And it's a cliche, but if you look at the results of 2010, we played in front of big crowds. We led the whole year. We're first the whole year. Like, it's not a fluke that we won the title in 2010. It was a basis of 2009 and guys developing and under Wayne and playing for each other. And there's not many games there where I'm looking down. Like, I'm looking at 38-24. I'm looking at 26. Like, there's some domination in defence there. I mean, there's 5, 6. There's nearly 10 games that are 10 points or less defensively. So that's, to be a defensive team that only concedes 12.5 or 13 points a game shows that we were one of the best defensive teams in history.
Yeah, and we did have, obviously, that goal of under 16, and we had a little chart on the wall and everything that we'd do, and we'd go and tick the box and go through that process, and it was something that we were used to by 2010, I think.
That whole 3 out of 4 every month was the win ratio. There wasn't, I think there was only 1 month where we struggled, but defensively, we only gave up 20 points in 3 games in the finals. We had, like I said, 11, 13, 10, 12, 10. Like, these are the signs of a good team that weren't worried about what anyone else was doing and only worried about ourselves. And to say that, we had attack to back it up. Although it was boring at times for the purists, for us, winning was fun, and winning is what counts. So, yeah.
You talk about the attack side, and you and I owe a lot to Bo Scott through that little period. But that was sort of our job. Yours is to find yardage, find field position. Mine was to get out of the back of the field and do what we need to do, stay safe and those sort of things. And like we said, Bo was to make sure that he put inside pressure on so we didn't have to do as much tackling.
That's right.
That all changed when we recruited a Frenchie, the great Mark Gasnier. Do you remember his leaving and what was your impression when he came back?
I'll say this about our right edge. We did our jobs. I always explain, how are the Dragons so good in those years? My job, if we're building a car, was to put the left tyre on. And if your job was to put the spoiler on, and I'm worried about your job, that's when we started to lose. And you can go back to those games and you can see or get a feeling that guys were worried about other guys and making uncharacteristic mistakes. But we did our job on that right side. The left side were dominant. I think BMOS scores 50 tries in 2 years just with that play, which we'd get in Mondays and couldn't believe that team was still working.
They have a lead.
Yeah,
and someone plays out the back.
Darius
of it,
short, long, and it's going long every time. But we did our job and we executed when we had to. So I remember walking in for a recovery session and Dino and Benny were talking, and I think Bo was sort of at his end in terms of, because we didn't really get plays down our right edge. We just defended, and he was great. I think Bo was probably player-wise the best person that I ever had that helped me in my career because he defended me and was able to protect me for so many years. But once we got Gaz, it was like, okay, now Bo can do all that stuff again, and Gaz is going to come back and be another dimension in attack. And if you look at the grand final, we score all our tries on the right, and that was because Gaz was on a threat on that side. So getting him back, he had to earn his way in, which is something that I'll never forget. You know, he had to train hard. He played in the middle. He had to do all that kind of stuff. It would have been easy for a coach to say, this is the greatest guy, probably one of the greatest players Dragons have ever had in modern era, and that we're going to rush him back in. But, Wayne never did that. And it made everyone else who felt like Gaz was going to be the saviour, like, he has to earn his way into this team. And when he left, I actually got to sign his last pair of shorts.
Did you?
And I got them signed, so I was absolutely filthy when he came back. Because
they were going to be the
they're
last
worth nothing.
ones.
They're worth nothing now. So if anyone wants them...
I've got his ones from 2011, so they're actually worth something his last year.
Yeah.
I've got those ones. So
it was they're worth nothing. So if anyone wants them, they have got my name on them. But
I'll have them, and then I can have the pair when he came back.
But he was... Yeah, Gaz was fantastic.
What do you remember? I was saying, so you came up with the great nickname of the French fry. Where did that come from? Was it image based? Obviously, it came from France. I thought it was a great name, and we sort of ran with it for a while.
He's just so skinny. I just remember how skinny he was. Fun.
Well, he was the French fry, and he used to. Anytime we'd all bag him about how skinny he was, he'd just bag BMOS about anything for being a winger.
They have repeated what happened in 2006. They are through to the preliminary final. They are one match away from a shot at the big one. We won't see them for a fortnight. They'll be at ANZ or the Footy Stadium.
We had the week off, so when Canberra play West Tigers, we wanted West Tigers. Whether it be just we matched up better than, but we had lost to Canberra twice that year, and our game just didn't suit Canberra. Like, they were just ad lib and throw the ball around, and they didn't have any fear against us, which is one of the teams that probably didn't. But the Tigers, when they got through, the instant storyline was around 05-06, and those great teams for the Dragons that just fell short, and 05 was probably their best chance to win, and they get beat by the Tigers, who end up winning the title. But for us young guys, I don't know if you remember the same, like, I wasn't really thinking about that. I was thinking, this is a semi-final to get to the grand final, because we weren't here then. We're a completely different team now. We've been the best team all year. It's up to them to beat us, and they had to bring their best game, and they were a bloody good team, the Tigers. Like, they were really good. But I didn't buy into too much about the past stuff, because those guys, they knew, like Dino and Benny Cray, like, they all knew how much it would hurt. Like, that 05 team against our 2010 team is like 14 internationals versus, probably 5 or 6 guys.
Benji and Robbie.
Yeah, so... But again, alongside our 2010 side, like, there's just chalk and cheese. They are way better, individually talented super team versus our team of 2010. Like, just internationals, everything. So, I didn't really think too much about it. But as the week gets on and you realise how much we hate the West Tigers because of the running battles that we'd had, it was starting to build up.
It's great, isn't it? A sea of red and white, flags and bunting. Welcome the Dragons to ANZ.
I actually ran out the ANZ Stadium. It was so loud. It was the loudest environment I'd ever played in, and warming up and stuff like that. And I usually have 3 shots at field goal before the game. And I had one, and it came like straight out of the middle. And at the time, I just stopped and went and joined the warm-up, which is what I did. You guys would wait for me to sort of finish that bit and then come over and do a bit of warm-up.
So you only hit one? You only shot one?
I only hit one.
And how many times before that would you have done
never.
3? Never
I've
done
always
one?
done 3. I've never done
you're,
one.
You're quite a obsessive compulsive kind of guy. To only hit one, why then?
Well, it just came out of the middle straight away. Like, I don't know whether it was the excitement of the crowd, but it just came straight out of the middle, and I just thought, we're not going to hit it.
It's going to go backwards from there.
It just went straight through. And we get to that moment in the game. Jezza comes across and accidentally knees Lottie in the back. And there was a break there in a moment. And I just remember looking at the clock thinking, all right, well, they're too far out to have a shot at field goal here because we're set. And, I think they're 45 out. So they'll try and pin us down. If we get down there next time, I'm going. No matter what, I'm going. Because not that we were running out of path, because I felt like we're on top, but I just felt like we could win the game with 1 point, whereas they were looking for a knockout blow with a try. Like, they were going to try and chance their hand. And
we could defend a point. We could defend a point for how long we need to.
And that was Wayne's mentality, was you take it whenever you're ready. And, there's times, if you look back through the year, there's times I took it before half-time. There's times I took it, straight after half-time. So Benji kicks out in the full. And I'm thinking, this is it. Like, I just need to get people in the right position. And it's a credit I'm not saying it because it's on the pod or whatever, but if you watch that whole set or any time we took a field goal, everyone knew their job. I didn't have to frantically yell or try and organise, and I could just take myself out of that set.
Did we have a call for that?
Well, we just go like a little triangle, which was like we're just going to go to a point and get the job done.
That's right.
And for me, it was about sitting out the back and just being the traffic cop to be able to make sure that I was ready to go. And Bowie takes a good hit up. The forwards ran hard, and Fansy's pass comes back, and it just comes straight out of the slot. As soon as I hit it, I turn around because it's gone through. But it was, I felt like we could defend a point a lot better than trying to chase a try. And when we win, I felt like, not that we were the champs, but that was the grand final for me. That was the two best teams played on the wrong side of the draw, if you want a big fan base next week. But I felt like that was and that's no disrespect to the Titans or the Roosters, but whoever won that West Tigers game was going to be heavy favourites going into the final. Yeah,
I think we'll regress a little bit and talk about those couple of weeks in Bondi, living the dream in our Bondi. But what do you remember about Swiss Grand, which no longer exists?
Yeah.
What do you remember about those sort of weeks? I remember because that's the same thing. When we finished that game, we're like, oh, cool, let's get back to Bondi and hang out for a bit.
Yeah.
What was your take on that, and how much did you, I suppose, find the chance to get away when we were deep east rather than at home and are surrounded by maybe our own fans putting pressure on us?
Yeah, the Swiss Grand thing was funny because we were all wondering why we were going to camp at Swiss Grand, and Wayne calmly just got on the bus and said, because I've won 6 grand finals there, and everyone just went, cool, we want to win a grand final.
They knocked it down, and look what happens.
Yeah, so, we stayed there, and it was funny because once we won, we couldn't wait to get back there. And we had camp, we had grand final week camp in the town of the team that we were playing. Like, it was weird, but good for us because we weren't sort of smelling our own shit. We weren't around. It was a busy week. I don't like the grand final setup week. I think to be able to enjoy it, I'd like to have a week off and get all the media stuff out of the way and then play the grand final the week after. I think that would be something you could really savour because it's so busy. But Swiss Grand was awesome. Like, it was just like we were away. It was
funny,
up
and that's
against
what
it.
Like Bondi is like. Like, there isn't any Roosters fans in Bondi, let alone people. They're all English or backpackers or tourists, and I think that's what made it really cool. We walked down the beach and we weren't anyone. We weren't a Dragons player. We weren't a Roosters player. We were just
and it gave us time to spend together as well. Like, some guys like being at home. I like being at home. I didn't like pre-game walks and all that rubbish, but it gave us real time. I think the dinners we had and the laughs and all that kind of stuff built to the culmination of winning the week later. Yeah,
but I think that relaxation, we're back to our little random place where we're hanging out. We're just doing stuff.
Yeah.
Pre-game walks, swimming, the weather was getting good, and we weren't thinking about footy. I reckon that off the back of that, the pressure of the club we were carrying and the failures that they had in the past.
That was the other thing. That's the other thing, because everyone says, like, the choker tag and stuff. We were expected to win the grand final once we beat West Tigers. Like, we're expected, not within ourselves because we were confident, but the Roosters had been through such a journey through 2010 themselves. Golden Point win. They go up the Titans, they win. They've just been through a roller coaster themselves. They've got nothing to lose. We're expected to win with this chokers tag, so all the pressure builds on us. And we're wearing the red V, which is every person, regardless of how the team's going in current states. Every person you see always talks about 2010. And how much it meant to them, and where the last time I saw was blah blah blah. It's like, but 2010. Oh, I was there that day. Like, there's 300,000 people that were there on that day. So.
The count must be wrong. They must be wrong. Almost everyone was back there, and I suppose that's probably what makes why we're able to reflect on it 10 years later. Because unfortunately for our club, haven't reached those sort of heights. But the fact that we were part of it, such a huge drought after those 05 and some other times, 99 even, those times of falling short, being able to celebrate that is why we are here today. So, but that puts things in perspective, the fact that we were able to get away. Team walk on grand final day, what do you remember about that, mate?
It starts to rain and we don't go on it. And
how was that for your mindset, your mental state?
Yeah, I remember walking down and filling out the wellness charts and writing a few smart-ass comments because, like, if I wasn't going to feel good grand final day, I was never going to feel good. So I was sort of in a really good state of mind. I had no idea what to expect. I just wanted to get out to the ground as soon as possible. But I remember going to go out the walk and Wayne says, we're not going. We're going to sit in this room and have a chat. And knowing Youngie and all that, they just start playing Chinese whispers and we start bagging each other and Wayne loved it. Like what were we, 20 grown men playing Chinese whispers on the biggest day of our lives professionally, and that, I think, relaxed everyone in the room. The only time I felt sort of panicked all day was the week before we took a different route to ANZ Stadium, and grand final day we actually went a different way, and I started to get anxious.
Did you sit in the same seat on the bus?
Yeah,
Where'd you sit?
I always sat behind Brett Morris.
Yeah, about halfway up.
Halfway up on the
left-hand side. Yeah. I still remember it. Yeah.
When we start taking that different route, I started getting anxious. Like, where are we going? Why are we going this way? I need to get there. I had a routine of everything I wanted to do. So that's when I felt anxious. But other than that, before I ran out, I was pretty switched on, pretty cool, not too much fuss.
I sat next to Wayne. Wayne sat next to me. Other than that, in the old awkward, you can't find a seat, Wayne sat next to me. Starts asking me if I'm nervous. I'm like, of course I am. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
So why would we do that to you? So we played Chinese whispers.
Yeah, I don't know.
Then we go and drive a different way. Who was driving the bus then?
We had the same bus driver for a long time.
Gav.
Yeah, Gav.
Gav driving the bus.
But yeah, it's when we've watched so many grand finals, and I think back to the grand finals we've watched, and you played in a junior one there, I played in a junior one, and a couple of reserve grade ones, and I just thought that was the biggest moment that you get, being there on grand final day, working there for the media on grand final day is so exciting, but playing, it's actually just totally you're so blocked off from the crowd. You don't hear that noise until you go out. There's no build-up as you walk in. True. Totally different. Yeah. And then to be in the change room, it's almost like it's quiet, When it hits you is when they announce the teams and because you warm up inside, once you hear your name and stuff like that, then it's like, holy shit, this is going to be the biggest day of my life, either way. But yeah, it's pretty cool to think back in that much detail.
I used to get a bit of energy off your pre-game. I don't know if you've talked about your pre-game much, but what do you usually do when you run to, mostly when we're receiving a kick?
Yeah, it's I don't know. I don't even know when it started. I used to have a lot of nervous energy before the game, and running out, I just used to scream and yell and swear and just tell myself how good I am. Yeah. Pretty much tell everyone around me how good they are and how much they're going to kill today, and that, I don't know. It was just something that made me feel comfortable, and I didn't care what it looked like, because sometimes when you're in a way, down at Shark Park and you do it, I knew the crowd hated it, so I did a little bit extra, so especially when we were so good. But yeah, it was, I don't know, it became part of my thing.
Run out and go, woo, 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 over and over again, and it was great. We used to go, this is, and how good's this? Get all that, and like you said, that release all that emotion, but also pump yourself up.
There's the kick-off to the grand final of 2010.
What's your memory of our start, especially of the first try that we scored that may or may not have been planned?
Our start was really fast. We just executed everything, and they looked like they had to come out and try something different to beat us, whereas we looked like if we stayed the course, we were going to win. That first try, BMOS gets tackled and may or may not have put his foot on the sideline. But the next play, we'd practiced at Redfern about 15, 20 times, and every time in training, Wayne would just smile. He was like, he was that happy that he'd come up with it.
Yeah.
You know, and
Don't give that to him. Well, what was that play called?
it was called Frenchie. It was designed because they were rushing up, and it's just designed to get in behind as a tactic. And it was a huge call because first set down there, like he said, we're doing it no matter what. I don't care.
We hadn't really done many of those sort of plays.
No, we've
either.
just
it was
been
more
very
of a Brownie. Brownie was very much like that.
Yeah, actually he
out of the
was.
back.
Brownie we did a play down in Canberra. I think you scored just off the tap, first
I
play.
remember, yeah.
So at training, you can do it a million times, and it's great. You know, Wayne's laughing and all this kind of stuff. We get down there and automatic, just autopilot. Like I kick it, and I actually overkick it when you look at it, but Gaz scores.
There's a try for Gaznia off an absolute bottler of a kick from Soward.
And then after that, we just tightened up. We really tightened up. We made some uncharacteristic errors. Horse made one. We just couldn't get out of our own end.
That is half-time. 8-6 at half-time then in favour of the Roosters.
Going at half-time, and I've said this a million times, like Wayne just was so calm.
It's weird. Yeah,
He just said, like, all we have to do is win the second half. And I honestly remember smirking. Like, I just thought, well, if we don't win the second half, we're going to lose. Like, that's where my head was at.
You do the math, bro.
Yeah. So he had a chat, a few changes. We could fix what we had in one or two sets, whereas they still had to come up with ideas how to break us down. They'd gotten a lucky try. They'd ran a really good play, but that wasn't going to happen again. So
yeah, and you're right. And those nerves were gone. We'd already made more errors than we'd usually make in a half. And then your thoughts on when the momentum started to gather through us getting a couple of back-to-back tries.
Yeah. Well,
what do you remember about some of those plays, or did it felt like just pressure was causing those? What was your take on the tries and the pressure that we were building?
I just remember like your scenes when you score is pure jubilation that you've scored a try grand final day, that we've hit the front. From that point, it was like, we're going to romp these. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just, it was a really good try. Darius had done well to take the hit and put the pass on. Your finish was fantastic. And that try set the tone for the next 15 minutes, which was going to win the game. It was just by how many for us, in my honest opinion.
The Dragons going down with an opportunity. Hornby behind Scott, and here's Boyd in from the back. Trouble. Nightingale has scored for the Dragons.
All those sort of memories, and like you say, I think those plays won't come because they came just out of pressure that we're building through energy and sort of a non-stop focus.
We're just relentless with our game
relentless.
plan.
But my favourite, and I always talk about this moment, I don't know if you felt the same, but right near the end of the game, I think they just forced to drop out. They'd forced to drop out on us, and we're like, look up at the clock, and like, oh,
there's only 5
game's
minutes
almost
left.
over, and the score's 32-8.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that time was like, let's celebrate while we're still doing it.
Yeah, and I never felt like that moment was ever going to come, and when it did, it was pretty cool. Like, you think about the journey that we'd been through individually, but also the pressures that we'd had the year before to culminate into that one thing. And like you said, to look up and only be 5 minutes to go and we're up by 20 points, pretty cool.
Yeah, I remember that, and it was a special moment. We're still playing this game that we love, but we get to do it knowing that the pressure's off. We've won,
and that doesn't happen very often.
In grand finals either. And I think that's probably what I take a lot from it, is that we were at that period, we'd earned the dominance, we'd earned the momentum that we created, and then it was time to look up and have a break. I reckon that's where I was like, yeah, we've done it. To be able to just play footy without any fear of losing, which is a lot of thing that drives you, the fear of failure, the fear that we'd succeeded. So yeah, that moment was probably the best moment I've ever had on a footy field.
The Dragons win the grand final 32-8.
What were your best memories of post-game? Obviously, that time in the shed. What are your memories on that when you first get in the shed and it was a bit of a lockdown? What do you remember about that?
Cuddling mum and my stepdad. He's a lifelong Dragons fan. He was over the moon. The best memories after when it's just the team.
Yeah.
I think.
And the families at that closed door part at the start. That's what I remember that.
And then down the bottom, when we got to bring one person in, and I took Huey. He's, which I bought a couple
Your stepdad?
I bought a couple of cigars down, and that moment for me and him is something that I'll never forget. And then the other one was watching the game together on the Tuesday or Wednesday or whenever it was. That was awesome.
I was going to ask about the ring. Like, I love my ring, but I feel like it's out of something else that you think of a ring as the trophy that you get to lift.
Yeah, I think my love and passion for American sports drives that. Yeah, to be a really remembered player, or to have that symbolism of a championship next to your name forever is something that I always wanted. And I look at guys, it's funny because I look at a lot of guys like yourself, like love your ring and stuff like that, but probably, some guys don't even know where theirs is. Like but for me, it's like, that's the pride and joy of my career, that special time. And Dino spoke about it, he's the same. When we meet in 10 years' time, we want to shake hands and have our rings clink. That always stood out in my mind because it's a symbolism of the people that the greats of the game have rings, because they show they're able to do it either time in and time again or be able to do it that year. So, I try to get it out whenever I can.
I always think you jam me up, and now I'm going to... Time in Wollongong with lunch last year, and then Granny's wedding this year, I thought, bring your ring. You always say bring your ring, and I was like, I might bring your ring.
Well, it's I'm
going to bring my ring next time.
It's the memories of that time, and like when we won, it was a lot of my stuff was like up yours to a lot of people who'd written us off and written me off throughout my career. Now it's a time to reflect and think how good we bloody were, and how much, like, some guys never get an opportunity to win that. And to be able to pull it out and on grand final day and think back to these memories, and hopefully people watching the pod, like, you go out to it and you wear it at a function, like a ring, and people say, oh, you're always wearing the ring. Well, the people that say that don't have one. The people that want to see the ring and stuff like that they remember that forever. I let people wear it and take photos with it, and they are just over the moon. So I just think
I'm bringing it to next event. So make sure you keep going. Bring your ring.
Well, the symbolism's just like, this was our time.
Yeah.
If you'd won 5, sure, don't wear 5. But if I just think it just really symbolises that period of time in our life where we were the best in Australia and in the world at what we did, and we shouldn't be embarrassed to wear our ring. We should always be proud that we were the best in the competition, and that symbolises that.
Yeah, I love that. I love that symbolism, and I'll make sure I wear it. Maybe not to a wedding next time, but certainly a footy event or any function we get to see each other.